development to match the look of the existing development to the west.
But they didn't do that. It's still 50-foot lots everywhere where they don't have townhomes. Very little of the feedback that we gave was adopted.
They gave bigger setbacks and bigger side yards.
That was already there.
No.
They shifted them 4 feet. The upper cul-de-sac moved a few feet to the east. And they moved where we had where the plan had townhomes on the corner of the 2 roads. Those got shifted internal, and a row of townhomes was added along Larkspur and Goldenrod. Those had some single family there previously.
Yeah, but those homes that abut Ravinia, those have larger side yard setbacks and larger backyard setbacks than what is required.
Yeah, they do, but that hasn't changed based on feedback.
I think he's saying that was in there in the initial.
That was our initial feedback, is we wanted them to match that.
We asked that they have similar widths a little bit farther in, because you're right, they had wider lots immediately adjacent. 22, I think that's 19, 18, those had wider lots than the remainder, and the feedback that we gave was we would like to see additional lots that were a little bit broader as well to get more transition. But that was not one of the modifications to the plan that was made.
Well, it seems to me they made concessions on the lots and the townhomes, which we asked in the moving of that.
They moved them, yes, but they didn't change the widths.
I mean, the only thing they really didn't do is change product style.
They didn't change widths, they didn't change product style.
So you wanted the widths to go to what?
I remember the feedback we gave in November, we were looking for some additional 65-foot lots to be mixed in. Because that's what the development to the west had. On the north side, I think they're 55-foot lots.
Oftentimes, you drive through I don't know, it's hard for me to, if you increase their lot width requirements, then we'd have to have even more townhouses, because there would be we wouldn't meet the density requirement.
Well, you've got some slack to hit the density target. I mean, look at Emberley and Bellwether. The pre-development net density there was like 2.7, and they ended up at 3 point. I forget what the total was across all of them. It was on Natalie's slide, I think.
3 point.
I mean, there's some room to play and still hit.
But again, I think comparing it to that large of piece of property up there and the wetlands were there, we can't compare the two.
Well, and Bellwether is a targeted community.
And it's 55 and older. It's just a whole different animal than this.
Well, I'm a bit confused on the 55 and older part being relevant.
Well, the design is a smaller lot. The design
Right.
is more density in there.
Mhm.
So
The smaller homes.
For smaller homes, they're geared to a whole different market segment.
Can I ask the
Yeah.
applicant one more question? You had mentioned that the single-family homes are going to be around 2,900 square feet, or is there a variance in that size too?
Just, a little bit above 2,400 to 2,900 square feet. The different floor plans will range between that.
I have no idea how big Ravinia homes are close to this.
They range, from the listings I've seen, I think the smaller ones are like 2,600,
Okay.
and the bigger ones are pushing 5,000, I think.
Holy cow.
It is, yeah, there's a lot of area there.
You take my house and barn, it ain't that big. Yeah, it might be
Your
close.
barn is bigger than.
Might be close. That's true. Sorry, I'll retract that.
So how do you guys, then, how do you get it done? Is there some, how would you get it done here?
Can you elaborate what you mean by get it done?
Can I ask a question
Oh.
of yours too?
Oh, I would like to specifically know how this meets the requirements of the code and the density requirements. what do you think should it be? Where should the single-family houses go? Where should the townhouses go? So at least the applicant has something to chew on.
I gave a sketch to Jessica earlier.
Yep, and we sent that over to the applicant. I know generally we have to review the application that's in front of us, so just,
I know, but
yeah. So.
I think John's chasing the rabbit of how do you get to yes? Like, how do you get
Yeah.
the people who are
Sure.
not sure to a yes? So I've got thoughts on that, and it's been shared, apparently.
You raised the question about benefits. So what benefits are you looking for in this development that you're not seeing?
In the other developments, the things that I saw as being true value, I like when we're preserving upland and hardwood areas. There's a little bit of that within some of the buffer spaces. So I do see value in that, and I explain that as part of the value consideration. But I see the 65% townhomes as being a really big flexibility ask, and I don't know what you could do within this site to have a benefit that would match that.
I see a huge amount of yard space and everything around the townhomes. And then bigger backyards in the back of the single-family homes. I see a lot of open space with a lot of houses in it. A lot of dwellings, I should say, not houses.
When I say open space, I don't just mean like parts of yards. When we were targeting larger open spaces in previous code discussions, the goal was to try to preserve area that could be suitable for public trails and wildlife habitat, and you're not going to get that within
They didn't
somebody's
want,
yard.
the parks didn't want any of that.
Well, they didn't get offered that either. They got offered a tot lot, and they didn't want a tot lot.
But the question was there, I don't know if you were the representative there, but what did they ask for, not what was offered? I mean, that's what we do here, and the planning commission too, is they didn't want anything out of this, they wanted the lump sum to parks. I mean, that, I think I've got a head nod from Pulte saying that's what they wanted was park dedication fees as opposed to anything else, so.
You know, in one of our work sessions, we talked about preservation buffers between developments. And to me, this is one of the better examples of that preservation. So.
There's value in that.
In that regard, that's a big benefit, because if you look at the prior development that was considered by council, there wasn't this much preservation. There was some up in the upper corner, up in the northeast corner, because they weren't going to use that space, but there wasn't this much preservation around. You know, you can compare it to Tavera. And personally, I think the townhome situation in this development is way better than the townhome situation in Tavera. Tavera is right there. It stands out at you. Those townhomes are gonna be on that corner, and they're gonna welcome people into the city
Welcome to
forever.
Corcoran.
If those trees stand as they are, when you drive up Rockton Lane, you cannot see them. When you go down Hackamore past where that Goldenrod Road cuts up and where the Hoagland's driveway is, if those trees stay, you will not see those townhomes. They're gonna be two-story homes, they're gonna blend in just like every other home there. So really, the people that are gonna see them, and maybe we could do something with buffering on that, would be at the wetland on the northeast side of the development. Because if the trees in the outlot stay, you won't see many of those homes on the north side of the development either.
Do you
And
have
it's-
thoughts on how to get there, to that?
What's that?
Do you have thoughts on how to get to that?
I guess I would suggest, you know, I drove down to the end of Lark's Spur Lane today, and I can understand what these people are gonna be missing, right? You're seeing these trees and open space, and you're gonna look across the wetland, which, as me, that's not a definition of a wetland, that's a low area. But, I guess I would suggest maybe some landscaping in that area to break up that townhome look there. But for the most part, I think they did a really good job of hiding it, and that's, to me, that's a benefit to the surrounding homes.
So in terms of if you wanted to try to add that to the resolution, to try to get that part of Alan's concern addressed.
I think that would be related to the landscape plan.
And you're talking, Alan, here?
Yeah, from that corner up into that area.
I would just want to ask real quick, is that something you're amenable to?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, could I just have the item restated so that I can hear clearly? Are we talking about more coniferous trees planted in that particular area for screening? Or?
Yeah, I would defer to staff for what mix of trees
Okay.
it would be, but looking across that wetland from the existing neighborhood down, you know where we're referring to?
We would accommodate that, yes.
Okay, we can make that change.
Do you need a motion to,
We would need a motion to approve whichever, we prepared to do a denial resolution, and we're prepared to do the approvals.
I would suggest a motion to amend the approval resolution to what change you.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to amend the approval resolution to add landscaping on the backside of those townhomes. All the way along there, from the corner of the road all the way down to the existing stand of trees.
And this is just the amendment?
That's my only.
Correct.
I'll second.
Any discussion? And yes, to answer your question, it's the amending the resolution, not voting on the
Not voting
resolution.
on them.
Just adding the number of the townhomes from 103 to 118. That encompasses all three groups, or are we just talking 108 to 118?
Maybe you're-
Eliminate the first,
Might as well shoot.
trees in
No, take
here,
the
but-
Laser.
whoop,
Is that the green one?
that's the green one. I didn't put anybody's eye out, did I?
Yeah, I'm referring to basically from this point all
All
along
the
up
way.
to here.
So if that helps from
This is the numbers.
03 townhome to 118 townhome, a buffer added there.
So we do have a motion and a second, and any other comments on that or questions? All
How
those,
deep would it be? Do we need to specify, like, how many
I-
feet?
That would be them.
I think.
I
defer to
think,
Natalie.
yeah, I think we're gonna, I think what, we're gonna need some flexibility, because I don't have the foot space of like what that space is right now. But I think the intent is to work with staff to create an appropriate buffer, and I understand the intent is to have that part of the site buffered with a mix of trees, so.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Now to the overall resolutions, or any other changes anyone's thinking they'd like to propose?
I think it would be good to flip the sidewalk on Goldenrod to the opposite side. Actually, sorry, there's no park anymore. It doesn't matter. Never mind. Never mind.
Anything else? Someone want to take a crack at a motion then? I feel like we've talked.
I
this
will
one
move
through
to
quite a bit.
adopt the denial resolution.
Okay. Which would be,
So we've prepared rules.
yep, 2263 denying
Yep.
the request as recommended by planning commission. Yep, I will second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That fails 2-3. Someone else want to take a crack at a motion?
I'll make a motion, the approval motion with Alan's amendment.
Okay. Which is also 2022-63, I believe, right?
Oh, we were amending the plan unit development, I believe.
There's
Yeah,
a
just
bunch
with
of them in
amendments,
here.
yeah.
With amendments, so you could move to do 2022-63 and 64 together if you'd like.
I did have one more thing to bring up on the townhome garage flexibility. So if you look at the chart that shows the garage schematic in the packet, it looks to me like the second car can't open the passenger doors because there's not enough width.
What page is that on?
So I would suggest that we remove that flexibility from the approval ordinance.
Let's second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Just, wait, what was that for? Just
That was
be
just
clear,
to amend-
that's to amend all,
For the townhome garage size exemption or flexibility in the approval resolution, to remove that element.
just want to make sure.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I be clear what's being stated about that? Because we don't offer a townhome design that has that maximum size that the code's requiring, which is why we offered not just the slightly longer garage, but the added storage space to up the square footage. So you're essentially killing that part of the project by removing that flexibility, which is, I believe, the intent of the motion.
The intent is to make sure you've got enough space for people who live there to park and have the things for their kids.
How much space are we talking?
I believe what we're asking with the added storage, we would be providing a garage with 469 square feet. I believe the code is asking for something like 520, 540 square feet, something to that effect. I don't believe any manufacturer of townhomes actually has that size of a garage. My garage on the house that I just bought is the size of this, actually a little smaller than this townhouse garage. We operate just fine.
You have two vehicles?
We do. Yes, sir.
Do you have a four-door F-350 that you can't put the hitch in the driveway?
With a 40-foot camper that you need to park in the driveway.
It's all subjective, right? But I guess
numbers correct?
I'd be more inclined to
So
hear
I-
what we did with
I'm pulling
Tavera
up the,
and what flexibility we offered there.
Good question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I missed that.
What we offered for flexibility on Tavera.
we can look at that. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I know that there was some discussion related to garage sizes with that. That's all I believe.
We just put that on hold until we find that out.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that should be fine.
Can we do all of this with preliminary plat, with
This is-
dialing in
I
as we
think
get
this
close
would
to
be
final
the
plat and
time
stuff?
that
the
we'd want
only
Yeah.
to make amendments is that
Thank you.
preliminary plat because we want to ensure compliance of final plat. Give us just a couple moments.
So Tavera got a 420 square foot garage where 440 square feet is required for townhome units with basements and 500 square feet for those without basements. So we did grant them 420 square feet at Tavera.
Do these have basements?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the townhomes don't have basements. So what we're asking for is 469 square feet. Our buyers get by just fine with this size because it's an HOA maintained development. They don't have snow blowers, they don't have lawn mowers, they don't have all the things that you do need extra garage space for. These are basically the same size or larger than what the single-family garages are, which do have lawnmowers and snow blowers and things like that. So it's an onerous, to go 500 square feet is onerous. That's why we're asking for that flexibility. I ask you to please support that.
So your single-family homes in this development with two-car garages are what size?
I want to say they're about 440, but I just don't remember off the top of my head.
Natalie, do you have any insight on that?
I can look it up on the packet, 1 second.
Part of the challenge that I foresee is when you get people moving in, Given the location, the school district is a big draw, so you're gonna get families with kids, and kids have stuff. And you'll end up probably with people in some cases needing to park vehicles in their driveways, because they'll have other things they need to store. And there is some public safety issues with that. There's a lot of car break-ins that have happened over the past couple of years when people are forced to do that. So there is a government interest in making sure people have enough space.
Yeah, but there's, I mean, how many three-car garages are in Ravinia that have cars parked out outside at night?
I don't really see.
I have a two-car garage, I have a storage shed, and I still have my cars sitting outside at night. I mean, anyone that's ever had a garage knows you can never build a big enough garage, no matter what it is, but I understand the point. If your single-family homes have a garage that's only 440 and we're asking to go 500,
Do we have a requirement for two-car garage size?
That's a great question.
I don't,
I think we just have a garage face
I
front
think,
size, right?
yeah, it's a square footage, I think.
I don't think it needs to be 2 square feet, it just needs to be the square footage based on, and like the idea is for storage. The reason why a home without a basement needs to have, in our code, a higher amount of square footage is because the idea is you don't have the storage in the basement. So, to their argument, they don't need that much storage because they don't have the things to maintain their lot since it's HOA maintained. So, I think that's why in the past we approved it for Tavera at a similar square footage.
We have no requirement for a single-family home with no basement on a garage size, do we?
I don't believe so. I'd have to look it up in the code. I don't know it off the top of my head.
So what they're proposing is 419 square feet, which we allowed 420
At Tavera.
into there.
They're asking for 419?
That's what
was
the
460.
packet
I
says.
thought they just said 469.
That's what's,
Yeah, we made adjustments to
Oh.
elongate them by a foot, and then we've added shelving on the interior, so the square footage of storage overall is larger. It's just we can't meet your total square.
What's the square footage of, like, the footprint of the garage, not including shelving?
Right now, I believe it's 22. I'd have to consult. I think it's 22 by 19 or 20.
Well, 20 by 23 is 569, or 469, so. It's a bigger garage than I have. I mean, I guess I would rescind my second on that and be fine with it. It's larger than what we allowed for Tavera.
What did we do for Rush Creek Reserve?
I think I voted.
we had a motion
I think
and a second, and we made that amendment to the resolution
For
to
this-
remove the flexibility on.
Yeah, so I
garage
would
sizes.
suggest if you wanted to change that back, make another motion to,
We did vote?
We voted
think so.
on that, yes, to
Yeah.
make that.
I'll make a
change.
motion to rescind that amendment.
I'll second that.
okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that's back to the original
Yep,
layout of that.
and the votes were
3-2. Yep.
Sounds good, just wanted to make sure.
Okay, anything else?
I think we are, yeah, we're still on. I don't have any additions.
Gotcha. Yeah, so now we're on, if someone wanted to make a motion,
The motion's been made already,
to
So, we.
approve.
and we're adding to, yeah.
So-
Motion's been made to approve, and we're adding amendments to
I
that.
don't think so. I think we
that
made
No,
my
so
motion
far-
deny it, now
so-
shut down.
Right.
So far, we've had a motion to amend the resolution 2264, and that was approved, to amend that with the additional trees from Townhome 103 to 118. Then there was a motion to deny 2022-64, and then there was a motion to remove the flexibility on the garage size requirement, and that was approved, and then a motion to rescind that motion.
So back to the original.
So I believe we
Have
have
made
not
one
vote,
amendment.
we have made one amendment, and we have not voted on the resolutions.
It's resolution 64.
Yes, 2020-64. We have two in the packet, one is denying and one is approving.
I'll make a motion to approve
As amended.
as amended.
Just resolution
2020.
64?
Just
2020-64?
2064
For the PUD.
for the PUD? We have
Yeah,
a couple
there are four of
additional
them.
things.
Yeah.
Or are you looking to approve all
All four, basically.
All four, the ordinance, rezoning ordinance,
The findings of fact.
findings of fact.
The
the
PUD and the.
Yeah, I mean, they're all kind of one
Yeah,
package.
they can be,
Yeah.
yeah.
With the,
And.
With the
a
amendments.
summary- And
So
a
your
summary,
motion is
and a
to-
summary ordinance as well, so it's 5.
yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
I would
Well-
suggest,
Summary
if you
ordinance
wanted
has
to
be pulled.
include
Yeah, I would pull the summary
the,
ordinance.
the rest of them and not 2020, summary ordinance 2022-462. That would be my friendly suggestion.
We have to, because you need
Right.
Four
need a
fifths.
4/5 vote.
Yep.
I'll
Well-
second your amendment if you make a.
Yeah, subtract that's the
The summary
notification, yes.
That's for public.
Everything but the notification requirement.
Okay. And we have a motion and second?
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion?
My caution is you will probably never see a development that isn't 65% townhomes going forward.
I would agree.
Well, my suggestion would be if this is important to remove PUDs, because PUD flexibility allows anything in the city, then we should stand up and remove PUDs from our city code.
Well, I'm fine with that. But I'll remind several members on this council that you wanted to negotiate PUDs. So I would encourage you to stand up and vote for that if that's really what you want to see.
Well, this is going to be subject to a PUD by our own making as a council, not,
Not
No,
a general one across the city, I don't
they
think.
couldn't make it without a PUD.
but it doesn't have to be this PUD.
I
And
get
I'm
that.
not really hearing any pushback from those who have said they wanted to negotiate on PUDs.
And point taken, but
Yeah,
also
I
the
think
discussion of
that's-
removal of
yeah.
PUD is the bigger conversation for another time.
I think we have negotiated, and I think it's sufficient.
Okay. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. 3-2. Congratulations.
The summary ordinance.
And then
Yep.
we could do the summary.
And, yeah, does someone want to make a motion to, I'll make a motion to adopt summary ordinance 2022-462.
You made a motion? I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
That is everything on that item. You. Care. Okay, does anyone need a break, or do you want to power? I think we'll keep going then.
I'll take a nap.
Item 8B, residential front yard / corner lot zoning ordinance amendment.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'll have Natalie go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just keep, Mr. Mayor and council, I'll just keep it to the summary, assuming that you've read the staff report. Basically, staff's asking for a little more direction and providing guidance to the underlying goals for the zoning ordinance amendment, whether we're looking to redefine front line and front yard so that corner lots have only one front yard, whether we're reducing the front setback for fences, or are we looking to grant Mr. Aller the ability to keep his fence as in within the required front yard setback through a variance or a combination thereof? And then I did provide examples of verbiage that I think could make sense, more I'd have to look at further implications in the code, but with the direction that this is along the lines of what we want to see, for the front yard, using a similar definition of front yard as what is found in our nuisance chapter, which effectively keeps the front yard based on the driveway access and is the shortest width of frontage, and it would only have, lots would only have one front yard with that. And then reducing the front setback for fences down to 25 feet, or the structure setback in the underlining zoning district, whichever is less. And then, again, moving with the variance application for Mr. Aller's specific situation, if this is desired, we should identify who will cover the costs of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or initial thoughts for Natalie or the rest of the council?
Well, I'll say that I stay where I always have been, and that's if you live on a corner lot, you have two front yards.
Okay.
If you actually live on a lot with 3 roads, then you have 3 front yards.
I think it's fair to people that they should really only have one though for, I mean, if you look at a house like A, if your they have the driveway in the middle of the house, but if you have your driveway off to the south side of that lot line, you don't have much of any yard to store anything in if you have 2 front yards or do anything with. It comes into play with a nuisance ordinance and whatnot. I'd just like there to be some consistency.
Well, but your front yard, well, I guess I've always said that to the people next to you, your front yard, it's not, it's a shade of gray, and I guess I've opted to have it be black and white. If you have 2 roads, you have 2 front yards. And otherwise you get into nuance that can't be solved algorithmically, in my opinion. So it'll always be gray. And so I think in my world, you have two front yards, and that's too bad. If you have to maintain 2 yards like they're front yards because of the neighbors and the street and all that.
I think it should be where it's addressed. That's the front.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you.
And that was the case for several cities that we looked at, wasn't it?
Correct. The cities that I surveyed, they tended to only have 1 front yard. How they did that was slightly different. I think Rogers had defined primary frontage and secondary frontage. The idea being, and then with the other cities, it's pretty much always going to be the shortest width. So it's the frontage with the shortest width. And then it's the frontage that you have driveway access and your address is based off of. There are some cities that allow you, when the frontage is really close in dimension, they allow for the property owner to choose, but my understanding is that's before the address. It's like right when things have just been platted. So the driveway access and the address itself are kind of up for debate still, but once those are solidified, it's set, and you're not supposed to change it from there. So if you preferred some of the other definitions that were provided from the other cities, we can definitely look at that. Otherwise, I kind of, to Mr. or Councilor Schultz's point, I kind of like the idea of having consistency between our nuisance code and our zoning ordinance code. I think that's just good practice.
I agree.
Does the address, to Jeremy's point, does that make sense with the code then, for the nuisance code?
I think it might be slightly different, but it's the nuisance code, the definition is the width and your driveway access. So I think the only thing that we would be adding in the zoning ordinance is your address needs to be, that's where your address is based on.
Would you ever have a driveway access that doesn't appear with your address?
Very rarely.
I don't believe so. I think we'd have, it'd be really difficult to pull, but we don't have.
Kevin's got a grin. He's got 1 or 2.
I mean, you
It's-
probably shouldn't,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been originally approved that way. Or the other scenario is you have two
Two
driveways.
driveways.
A lot of times you'll see 2 driveways. So
So-
you're always gonna have the one-offs potentially.
Correct, but I think the idea is, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I think that that would provide consistency overall to have that, and we just would add that address. And then if something comes up, we'd look at where their driveway is, where their address is. We don't have alleys, that was my point. We don't have alleys as a suburb, it's just we don't have alleys. So it'd be very rare for that to be a situation where all three of those things don't provide a clear frontage.
All this is based off the Adler property and the fence.
I think it's been a broader conversation. No, it's been brought up by some other people.
There's other issues
It
related to
got
this.
brought up by code enforcement stuff.
Right.
too.
That too.
So do we have I wanted to just use the Adler property. Do we have a picture overhead of that? I got it up on my phone.
Yeah,
And their address is,
I have it. I just don't wanna say it. Even though it's in the packet, but just trying to be respectful.
Personally, I'd rather address the code issue with regards to the definition of front yard, and
I agree.
if he benefits from it, or if it's his detriment.
Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, I have it up. It's
Give me just
just,
a moment.
but I can't, it's kind of gross. I apologize, but I do have it up just by,
One sec.
Well, we're getting that up. I think the second potential part, or at least part for discussion, would be what that setback is for fences. It seems like there's kind of a wide variety based on the cities that were surveyed, as well as just other cities in our area that I've seen. And I know in some conversations, Natalie, you and I had a while ago, you thought maybe there was some middle ground between maybe where we are currently and what would still, keep things out of the DNU easements, as well as just being a reasonable distance from the road for safety reasons.
correct.
And we're at
Yeah, I-
50 currently?
Yeah, I mean, I came from Brooklyn Park, so when I kind of think of things, I go from my experience, and they have 15 feet. And speaking with Public Works, we have drainage and trail easements where that could be really difficult for us to apply uniformly, but 25 feet, or the front yard setback if it's less than, because I think in our urban districts, or I know in our urban districts, we only have like a 20-foot setback. So for them, it really wouldn't make sense to have additional flexibility, but in our rural reserve, rural residential and our urban reserve, I think a 25-foot setback would accomplish everything we're trying to do with that 50-foot setback. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a compromise, but I think it would meet the city's goals with safety, as you said. And then also, just the general idea that fence regulations are supposed to help regulate view and air circulation. So I think you would still have, you'd be accomplishing those with 25 feet.
So my question on this, the driveway is the front yard
The driveway
on this property.
and the fact that they're addressed on Trail Lane, so that is their front
Everything
yard.
is trailing. Okay.
Trail Lane is that north to south road right there, so
South.
that, and it's the shortest width too, so no matter which way you cut it, that is their front yard.
And then, I don't know if you can move the map.
No,
The
you can't.
fence- The fence is all the way
Is along the southern lot
to the,
line?
yep, no, I know that, but all the way to the blue-green line,
Mm-hmm.
aqua colored.
It is all the way up the property line. I don't know how far back it is to the east, but it's all the way to the front property line.
Yep, no, I'm just talking the one that's intruding in the front yard setback.
Yes.
And the requirement for them is they can be,
So it's 50 feet with the opacity and the height that he wants. He could have a fence of up to 4 feet and 50% opacity with up to the property line, if approved with our zoning review, which we said that we would most likely do with that.
so we've all agreed it's a beautiful fence now, but it at 50 feet to go any further forward, chain link with plastic slats.
Or
Would
it
get
doesn't,
into that
they don't need to do
50%.
plastic slats, but, or they could do some kind of,
Screening with trees,
yeah,
shrubbery, those
hedges.
kind of hedges.
Yeah, that's my solution for a lot of people is plant hedges, because our code allows for that.
Yeah.
Or what is the black, the split rail or the black,
Black iron?
thank you. the
Wrought iron, wrought iron.
Iron rod, yeah, that would be the way to do it. Oh,
You can't do wrought iron 8 feet high though, can you?
4 feet.
Code allows only to 4
Yeah, so-
feet at that.
Yeah, so like more of a decorative fence is what's envisioned for that front yard setback space.
But the objective of what this person wants to do is remove all sight lines from the neighbor.
Correct.
So
And,
it's
yeah,
just that,
so the 25-foot is kind of a compromise. So we're saying instead of the 50-foot,
yep.
take it down to 25 feet.
And again, I agree with Alan saying we got one front yard and it's the address. It's what I've always believed front yards should be in R, and to change it creates all kinds of, look at the amount of time you've already spent coming up with all these options and everything, and I thank you for that. I didn't realize there was so many different options, but I'm just kind of simple. Front yard is the mailbox. It's my mind.
Yeah, I would agree with what you guys have said, that I'd be in favor of making that change to, so in this example, that being the frontage based on where it's addressed, and we just laid out. And I'd also be in favor of amending it to 25 feet. I think it's a reasonable number that gives more flexibility to people, but also seems to accomplish what we need in terms of safety and visibility.
Is it 25 feet off the front or any side?
That's specifically off the front.
Correct.
So what about that other one? Off the out, is he gonna be able to put a fence?
If he wanted to put up a fence up to the property line on Valley View Road, he could. We still require zoning review for anything within 6 feet of the property line to evaluate the impact to drainage and utility easements, and as well if we know of impending road work that we're
Yeah,
gonna have to
but-
tear
okay,
it up
so-
anyways.
So that's a different length. It's 25 feet on the, whatever is the front yard. But on the backyard, there's no 25 feet required. So we are gonna run into if you want 25 feet for safety, you're not gonna get it over on that other side.
I think part of
Can we pull up Brooklyn Park's example?
Right? Am I right or wrong
I'm trying to
about
figure
that?
out what you're saying.
Part of the
I got a pointer
reason
to that.
that there is discussion about having it down, or
Down.
where it's addressed is because of the cars accessing in and out of that front.
So you're saying 25 feet here,
Yep.
but you're saying all the way to the property line here?
Yes,
So
up
it's
until
a
you.
different
That's what the code is currently.
That code, because that's not a.
Well, no, it'd be 50 feet, so here, I'm gonna.
It'd be 50 feet here.
50 feet there, but.
what about
that-
here?
That's
No,
allowed
it'd be
to the
50
property
feet
line.
there, because it's
What?
two frontages.
Oh,
Yeah.
So-
That's why we
Okay.
talked about
So-
changing that.
Yeah, so,
if it wasn't a front, it's, yeah.
If it's
Yeah,
not considered a front.
but this is not considered a frontage anymore.
Yep, so they could go up to the property line if there's no zoning concerns, with the height and opacity, so.
But then why if there's a concern to go back 25 feet here, why is there no equal concern to go 25 feet back here?
So we address that with our clear view triangle. We have a clear view triangle standard. So Brooklyn Park, we're pulling up that graphic. They have a 30-foot clear view triangle standard, so they can put up the fence as long as there's still a 30 view, as long as they're still meeting that standard. Dayton had a really.
So why not have the clear triangle standard here too then?
Well,
Instead of a
there's a
numerical?
different standard for driveways versus the intersection. So again, I just want to pull up the Brooklyn Park one because I think it's a really nice visual. And I know that it's an experience code that they've applied across the board for decades now.
Sure.
And they haven't run into concerns that have made them need to change it.
Wow.
Was that because you did all
I'll
of
say,
that work?
I'll say this.
Well, I know how to
decades
apply
ago?
it. I know how to apply it.
I'll
I
say
know that
this
it
about,
works.
this is a consistent thing I'll say is, I don't really care about what other necessarily,
Oh, triangle deal.
other cities has relevance, but not complete relevance to what we're doing.
No, this is just, I'm just saying this is one way we could handle that concern, is you would still carve out the need for a clear view triangle. They have a 50-foot for intersections, so the fence can, as long as the fence with above 4 feet is not within that clear view triangle, they can have a fence up to the property line. So that would be one way to handle that.
So how does the triangle work in John's example? Where are you measuring the triangle from? At the
So
end of the
you
fence?
measure it from where, like, starting point is the
line.
The curve line, yeah, and we have a clear view
Yeah.
triangle carve out in our code currently.
I understand that on a curve, on an intersection with streets, but to John's point, if you go back to. the
His
previous-
like
I don't
road
think we
goes like
can.
this.
I think we're having trouble switching.
I apologize, we are having, the county's GIS system
Is
is.
down, and I'm the only one that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, system maintenance in
I'm the only one
progress
that
is
had the photo.
part
I'm just
Broke
glad I
it
got it
again.
before the meeting.
Sorry, everybody, I just.
So what's, I don't see the need for 25 feet if you have this clear view triangle.
So are you advocating for
I'm at,
0 feet?
I'm advocating for, if you happen to have two street frontages, the reason for having 25 feet here is
No different.
no different than the reason
The
for
other
having
corner, that
25
corner.
feet here.
Okay.
So why would, if there's some reason to have this fence be 25 feet off the road here, the same reason would apply here. So either have it be, I don't know, what's the difference?
So, I mean, the idea, so the reality is if we're moving away from double frontage, if we're saying that you can only have one frontage, then that line would be considered that'd be a secondary frontage. I don't know if we really need to have that defined, but you would have additional flexibility on that lot line. And the biggest concern is gonna be along the intersection of Trail Lane and Valley View Road, where you need sightlines. So
Yeah.
down there, we weren't concerned. We're gonna be concerned up in the northwest corner of the property.
Then why would you be concerned down here for sightline?
Well, it's not that we're concerned down there particularly. It's if you're applying the code to, again, uniformly applying the code going forward.
Yeah.
We need, when people are backing out of their parking lot, their driveway,
Parking lot.
then they need sightlines as well. And then we're also talking about where, like, your frontage, where your driveway access meets the road. That's the D&U easement we're most likely to need to access, especially if there's things like
So-
trail easements.
So it has something to do with the driveway.
Driveway.
Well, it's
Well,
really more.
to your question, the driveway is the difference, in
Yes.
my opinion.
That's, okay, so
That's how
then,
we-
It's intersections and driveways because they basically function where you access a roadway and there's increased risk.
then is the front road defined by the driveway then?
Front yard, yeah, that
That's
is
how
one, there's
we're-
3 characteristics we would be adding. It would be the shortest width of the frontage, like the frontage with the shortest width, where the property has driveway access, and where the property is addressed. That is your frontage.
What if it's not the same? What if your address is not the same where your driveway is, or is it always the same?
It is, I don't know of a property where you wouldn't have a driveway access where your address. What we may run into is there are properties with 2 driveways. But again, we would default to where the shortest width is and where the address is. And if there's an interesting situation, then we'll just have to deal with it. We have to create code based on the majority of properties. And
Oh,
this-
okay.
Yeah.
It would
Do we
be
wanna have the-
unapproved driveway, basically built wrong. So
Then do
like
we-
the original plan 30 years ago would have been to access here, they built it differently, we'd have to deal with it as a one-off. and
Do we want to add, if there's an
Yeah.
additional driveway, that we have the fence be 25
There's an
We
feet?
would have a
example.
clear view, I mean, we could add, if there's an additional driveway, the clear view triangle, or we could have it that there's, if you have a driveway, you have a frontage that you need to have a 25-foot setback, I could probably be creative with that.
Wouldn't the driveway require the clear view triangle regardless of which side it's on?
And
Should.
it's, yes, to your
For-
point,
To
we.
meet the rule, yeah.
Yeah, so again, we could just make it clear in the code that the clear view triangle that we have established needs to be honored with the fence, depending on where it is. So I think,
So then you wouldn't need the 25-foot.
If you want an example, there's an example in my neighborhood that's a corner lot with driveways on each road.
I can't look it up on the, and
got
it's
that.
down.
Yeah,
Google-
Onyx.
you
Sorry.
got Google Maps?
Oh, Google.
Thank you.
Maps.
Google is the answer to
I'm
everything.
so dependent on Hennepin County. All right, one second. All right, what is your address? Or the address?
Well, it's 63rd and Hunter.
So just
There-
go
There's a lot
south.
of dual driveways and,
Yeah.
Go south? Or-
Yeah, go.
Are they
south
all
on-
conforming then with 2 driveways? Do we have to
Keep going, keep going.
investigate
Yeah.
that?
Go down to Hackamore and go right.
Go down to Hackamore.
So you're right there, 63rd and Hunter.
I'll say most are conforming.
Just zoom in on that intersection.
Okay.
And there's many other examples. That's just the easiest one for me to think of right now.
Yeah, and that's part of why I said I still have to look at the implications of this. I just feel like these are the compromises to, if these are the underlying goals that we're addressing. But yeah, we definitely still have to look at how there's other implications in code that we need to honor and.
Yeah, and I'm assuming their address is on Hunter Road because that's where their mailbox appears. But they have frontages on 63rd and Hunter, and they have driveways that come out to each.
So, yeah, we
to
could-
John's point,
Yeah.
you've got that weird situation.
Yeah, we could make it so that if you have a driveway, it is a frontage no matter what, and you need to have the 25-foot setback for the fence. Or we could say that along your secondary frontage. I'm sorry, say it again?
I'm sorry, I coughed, but
I think I'd be in favor of that.
I'm gonna build.
It's a rare circumstance, but it addresses
Shoot.
times that it is a
and you
case.
might want to say if you have multiple driveways, if they're on adjacent property lines. So you don't have a driveway in your front yard and a driveway in your backyard that goes, you know, you have a
Yeah.
long driveway here that goes out to another street. You don't want frontages on both ends of your property. But if you have it like this, to apply setbacks for a fence.
Well, maybe that, the end around on that was usually that scenario would be like to a garage or something. I don't know if it always plays out, but maybe it's a prime front, I don't know. It gets.
Yeah, I mean, we may have long lots in the city that appears, but I don't know of any. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, so if we did it with the language, if you had a second driveway like that, or a looping driveway like that, where are we on the setback issue itself then? Is it just the visibility triangle standard, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess is that what we were advocating before, was the visibility standard in the front yard?
In the front yard, there's multiple reasons, but yeah, visibility is one of them, and then
We were looking at the 25 feet with the visibility?
yeah, 25 feet in the front yard accomplishes multiple goals. It's the front yard, it's the easements we're most likely to access.
Yeah.
It's also just, you know, it's an aesthetic, it's a curb appeal, it's retaining the neighbor's view where that might be their front yard, even though it's,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
I'd be supportive of that as far as setbacks, but it's still like a defined definition of one front yard based on address.
Based on it, okay.
Well, so, yeah. But again, if it's aesthetics or impacts to neighbors and you have two frontages, like you're gonna run into the issue. I don't know why you wouldn't make it 25 feet on any side where there's a road. Whether it's the front side,
Yeah.
back side, left side, upside.
Yeah, no, I don't.
I don't think it's aesthetics that drives that 25 feet, though. It's safety, right? So you have clear
Well,
access.
she just said aesthetics and the impact to the neighbors of having a,
I mean, that's the idea. The whole point of regulating a fence is you're retaining the neighborhood view, it's air circulation. That's why we regulate fence to begin with. And then as far as the setbacks we have established, especially for a 6-foot fence, then we have things like clear view triangles, and again, the view, I see the argument both ways. You have two frontages, you have two front yards, because the reality is your backyard, or that you think is your backyard, is someone else's front yard. So putting up a wall along the property line, essentially, you know, that it plays with their view.
So should we be discussing the difference between a fence extending perpendicularly into that area versus running like along the street within that area? Because I feel like that would be a more serious aesthetic problem versus
Even a
just coming in
perpendicular
at an angle.
fence, though, if it's 6 feet going up to the property line, while in this situation, you're right, where he has the fence placed, compared to the location of his driveway, there's the clear view triangle is probably okay, but that's not necessarily going to be the case across the board. If someone's going to choose it to put the fence in a different location, if we're staying perpendicular, you can have a 6-foot fence up to the property line, that could definitely cause problems with clear view triangle.
No, I'm not saying get rid of the clear view triangle, but We're talking about the non-primary address corner.
Take that down.
You could have a different requirement for a fence that just kind of extends toward the street versus one that runs parallel to the street and walls off the property from the street side.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying,
I can try to borrow the pointer back from John.
but only on the secondary frontage, we're not.
On the
talking about-
secondary,
okay.
Definitely work, yeah.
So you would have a different,
I think we should get rid
like
of
if this home
Take the battery out.
I get them.
No, but
had a
they didn't
fence
show up.
coming along here, maybe it's okay if you've got the Clearview Triangle requirement to let it go up to the property line. But you wouldn't want to let him run a fence up to the property line along the front edge, even if it met the Clearview
That would be his primary
Triangle.
frontage, though, what you're, so when you say secondary frontage.
Oh, sorry, then this side.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
So this could go to the property line, but you wouldn't want to have a fence running along the property line this way, because it cuts off the home from,
But you can have front yard fences.
Yes, you
but
Per
it's set back.
ordinances and-
It's set back and it's shorter and it's not opaque.
True.
I think, I think I can, I'd have to look into the implications of that, but I think that's something I can look into, yes.
Okay, so are we all generally on board with that enough to get a draft or some sort of,
Yeah, I
Action,
think
yeah.
I can get a draft and public hearing scheduled for August,
Okay.
to give me some time to just fully look at the code and what exactly needs to be done. Yeah.
sounds good.
In the packet, you had emails from
People.
the neighbor,
Yes.
I assume.
Yes.
What is the status on this? It doesn't change that? The courts, are they still waiting for us to make all of this stuff happen, or can this
Yeah.
be settled and can we,
So,
or just hang on, more to come?
I mean, at this point, we could tell Mr. Aller that there would be a 25-foot setback that he'd have to abide by and take down the fence, and that would be in compliance with what we're planning to adopt. And then we can, and if he's willing to comply with that, then I think we can dismiss the charge, and then that essentially would be the end of it.
Instead of 50 feet?
Instead of 50 feet. So again, it's a compromise. It's not exactly what he wanted, but it is a compromise that I think we can apply uniformly since it's a zoning ordinance amendment.
No, that would require us adopting, we'd want to make an adopt.
Yeah.
We would want to adopt at least that portion.
Yeah,
of-
so, yeah, I guess he wouldn't need to, I guess we would probably still need to wait till September, I guess.
Till it's done, but.
I do have,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
sorry, one other thing I wanted
My
to
bad.
add. I know one of the points raised in the staff report was the concern of changing, if you change frontage to just be on one side, that it could affect like the four-sided architecture requirements. some of
Yes,
the new
there are other
developments.
implications I have to look into, definitely.
What if we were to, similar to how we did the nuisance code, only make that change in some of the more rural zoning districts?
Well, our fence standards are uniform, so we have like a performance section for fences. So the idea is that this is what's applied across the city, so.
Would there be a way to potentially limit this frontage conversation to fences?
We can, we're gonna be having lots of definitions of frontage as well
Yeah.
all of a sudden. So
I
I would
just-
like to get
I-
it down to one definition of frontage.
I'm just nervous about the implication it would have on the heightened architecture in some of these developments.
And that's something I can look into further, and if you would
Okay.
like us to bring back a draft before it goes to public hearing, we can do that.
Think- think-
Okay. All right, so we'll plan on a draft for an August meeting. All right, and then hopefully September public hearing from there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie, for being so thorough on that.
Thank you. Well done.
Good job. Moving on to 9A, we do have a public comment opportunity technically.
Yes.
There's anyone still on?
So anyone joining us virtually can press star 9 or reactions and raise your hand. Mayor, at this time, no one is
Okay.
raising their hand.
Is there anybody on virtually?
There are 6 6 other people on virtual.
So 9A is Hackamore Road Project Final Design.
Yes. Today, before you, we have the final design for Hackamore Road Project. We discussed this a bit last meeting. We actually do have Jim Strummel from WSB here.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
To approve?
Second.
Any further discussion?
We just made him sit this long, and we're gonna let you go for.
He's happy he doesn't have to.
If you'd like to,
It's similar, just with a few wording changes.
Yes.
Yes,
so
and I do
the
believe Medina passed it.
proposal
Medina passed it earlier this week.
On
Tuesday.
the 6th, yes. So we are just, we did make the changes discussed, and as one of the points that we did talk to the city attorney about assessments and how to, some of the discussions we had last meeting.
You did a really good job putting it together. So it's not like we don't want to hear what you have to say, but
we've seen it before.
we've seen what you have to say.
Yeah,
Good job.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we did have a motion and a second. That was the discussion, so. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. It was the second, or the fastest second in history of city council.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Let's see here. 10, new business, we do have 3 items. We have public comment opportunity for 10A, B, and C, if anyone's on for those.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Anyone joining us virtually can press *9 if you'd like to comment on any of those 3 items. Or if you're joining us on a tablet or smartphone, can press reactions and raise your hand. Mayor, at this time, no one
Okay.
is doing so.
We'll go right into 10A, which is discussion of a rental ordinance. And Counselor Bottom, you asked for this to be on the agenda, so I don't know if you had anything you wanted to start off
Yeah,
with.
I asked for it, a consideration of the council. I think that we need to look into, we don't have a rental ordinance, so anybody that does it basically on their own accord. And there are a couple things that I think about. One is, there are companies that are buying houses specifically to rent them. We've seen an extraordinarily steep increase in some of the pricing of our houses, and I think some of the pricing in our houses are reflective on some of the national companies buying homes in neighboring cities and renting them. And so that drives up the price. And I feel like we could give people a break by reducing rent in our town, which will hopefully have their home values go up a little less for assessment purposes. And then the other thing is, rental, just as I don't want to stereotype, but there are issues and concerns with crime and other ordinance violations in rental communities and homes relative to non-rental homes. And I think we should explore either disallowing rent or regulating rent. And it's not a problem right now, but we would do it in advance of there being a problem.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's smart to try to get ahead of it because it's certainly something I think we're seeing regionally and just across the country. And I know other cities are dealing with it, and I think it makes sense that it's going to be an issue for us at some point. So I think it makes sense to try to get ahead of it with an ordinance, and maybe in terms of the specifics of
I
it.
was going to ask if there was specific feedback that you had related to this. I know a few years ago, we had talked about rental ordinance as part of the larger Ask DURSA task force related to some specific goals in 2017 or 18. So if there's specific things that you want us to look for.
I'm almost thinking that's a work session
We
conversation.
certainly could do a work session and.
You're going to come into the work session with an idea of what's possible. I would like to see if it's possible to limit rental licenses issued to large organizations. I feel like we shouldn't get in the way of somebody who is, moving away for 2 years and wants to rent their single home to somebody for a period of time till they come back. But I don't want to see 1,000 homes go up and that becomes, part of some corporation's balance sheet and they just collect for the next 20 years. And then take all those homes off the sale market longer term. So I'm not sure what is permissible, but I would like there to be a way to limit rentals to small scale and not so much large scale when it's pertaining to single family type or townhome type homes. Obviously, when you get into apartments, we do have some areas where that'll probably happen. You probably can't do that. I would also be interested in seeing if there's a way to steer those multifamily zoned areas to more of a condo model versus a rental apartment model. Again, just to increase that supply for people who are trying to own property in Corcoran with a different home type.
So for me, I look at it too as it's the safety aspect of not only the people around, but also the renters within the units, right? So regulating them to make sure there's proper, fire detection and things are maintained and whatnot, to protect their safety as well. But one thing that was told to me years ago in the city, one reason why rental ordinances never took traction is there's a lot of people in the city that rent to their own family. And there was a lot of opposition to rental ordinances, so I'm wondering if could be some type of carve out in that
Some
regard.
exception for renting to family.
And I don't know how you do that, Matt.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with rental codes coming from Mankato, with it being a college community, and seeing both commercial and private rentals, and typically the occupants are addressed by a number of unrelated parties that can reside in a home. So typically you allow up to 1 or 2 unrelated, so if it's a cohabitating couple, that's fine, but if you start having more than that, that it becomes a rental property. Typically we would see the larger corporations being more responsive to and less tolerant of police calls or ordinance violations because it was part of a larger, they would immediately remedy if there was a conflict where a private individual is trying to pay a mortgage, or, or if they're moved away for 2 years, they're removed from the property. So I think one of the balances that they found through a lot of trials and errors in Mankato was limiting the number of rental licenses per area. So you didn't get rows and streets full of rentals at a, part of their balance sheet, as you said, but it would become frustrating for people that would want to rent, and there weren't any rental licenses available in that area. But when you talk about maintaining the neighborhood integrity of not having constant cycle of people or people that aren't necessarily invested in the property, there's a variety of tools that, they count police calls for service and nuisance ordinances, as strikes against a rental license, and they can all three, while they might be different calls for service, all have a neighborhood impact. And I think there are models out there that kind of take into account a number of the things that you guys brought up. So I think we can probably have a few good starting points by getting a couple of existing ordinances to start with.
Can I ask a question?
I just raised my hand, you go ahead.
I would rather know the council's general ideas of whether we are really restrictive or more open. I guess just off. So otherwise you could be looking at codes for 100 years. If there's a general feel for us all, we could kind of cater the work to more restrictive or less restrictive or whatever, but.
I would say more restrictive.
I would lean towards
More.
restrictives.
Yeah, I would be open to restrictions with the carve out for family.
Sorry.
No, you didn't interrupt.
To Matt's point about non-related. Yeah.
My question is how are we going to staff this and do these things? And it sounds like Matt jumped on board with all of his knowledge and everything. So he'll be wearing two hats going forward. I mean,
I think that will be an
there'd have to be
important
staffing we gotta talk
part
about.
of
Yeah, you're
the
right.
2023 budget, if that's something we want to move forward with, we definitely need
You'll need
to.
a rental inspector.
Could we just a $5 adder to Matt's
Couldn't we just say no?
salary?
Can we just say no renting? Like if someone goes away for 2 years,
I mean, that
I-
could be something that we.
Or could we say that with some of the carve-outs for
I think
family
we
and
could explore that option with the city attorney and ask the question.
Number of
If that's
units?
something that you're interested in, we certainly could.
What?
We can ask the
I
question.
think you can.
No
rent
rental.
it.
How do Airbnbs fit into this,
Van.
and things like that?
That's probably a big,
That's
big part of it.
another-
We're just open.
that's another area when you get into short-term.
And I think you have to define rental.
Vacation
If you're gonna
rental.
say no rental, does it count if your cousin's living there? Does it count if,
Yeah.
Just-
there's,
can't have your
Well,
cousins.
and at one point, when Ravinia was first proposed, they had a product plan called their Next Generation or whatever home that had a separate living space within it.
There are 26 of those, they're twin homes.
No, not the twin homes.
No, they had
actual regular
regular
single-family
You're
homes.
saying they're
No,
the
they're-
equivalent thereof?
If you look at the table that Natalie put together, I think those are in there as twin homes.
No, they do have twin homes in, yeah, they do have twin homes.
What's wrong with-
One of the.
No, but these were actually
If
like.
your cousin lives there and
single-family
pays no
homes with
rent?
Mother-in-law apartment.
There are
But they
a couple.
consider them a twin home.
Then it's not a
because they're two
rental.
different living
You're
units.
just living together, right?
I don't think the council.
Well, I think it depends how you
considered that
define
at
it.
the time.
how do you prove that is the.
Because the twin homes are in a
Yes,
separate
there is.
area, right?
Is there in?
Did they even
think
develop
so.
the twin homes in that area?
They're in
We
the
could never-
table, but I
Well,
thought
let's
there
have
was
one
another
conversation at a time.
apartment area.
Could easily hide that,
I don't remember.
whether there's a rent ordinance or not.
But that was a concern of mine at the time when they came up, is what if somebody builds a home like that for the specific purpose of renting that additional space? You know, Changes the dynamics of
It's
the
more like a
neighborhood.
duplex at that point, kind of.
Yeah, but I don't think they were designed to have a feel of a duplex. And then
I'd say we want to look into maybe what some of the restrictions we can do are, and then look at some of the carve-outs that maybe we want to make to that, and
Do you wanna do a moratorium on it till we
like
figure it
Maple
out?
Grove did.
Do a year?
A moratorium on.
Until they get an
renting
ordinance in
homes?
place.
I'm not. I
Maple
think
Grove
that
put a
we-
moratorium on renting any new rental licenses.
We don't even have a
And
rental.
We don't have
We
them.
don't have rental licenses, I think. we
Sure, let's
would
do
wanna
moratorium.
confer with the
Oh, so we
city
wouldn't,
attorney.
yeah, we're doing a moratorium on something that's not,
Something we
can you
don't-
rent
It was just
without
a
having
moratorium
it
on
be
anybody
legal?
Moving into the
Well,
city.
right now, we don't regulate it, so you
People
can,
can
you can
rent,
do
yeah.
that. So because we don't regulate it, you can.
And so we have to get this in place
In
first if
order
we wanted to look at
to
that.
be able to put a moratorium on, we'd want to, or if we would want to move forward with not
Yeah.
allowing.
Either way, this would be
it
the first
need-
step.
It would be an
this would the
interim
first-
ordinance
Yeah.
where you would disallow rental, is how you would do it.
There you go.
If, I don't know if you can, that's a good question.
So that would be a question, for I don't
That'd be a
know the
question
answer
for-
to
We
that,
get
so
no
I
rental
want to make
anywhere right
sure.
now, do
So if it's something that we want to.
We just have no way of enforcing
no-
it because people don't have to come to the city to ask to rent.
Yeah, I hear you.
Licensing, yeah.
I think we lack the.
It's opening a can of
Yeah.
worms that like, yeah,
I
okay.
prefer to come up with an ordinance and then.
And then
enforce
look at,
it.
yeah. I think that's where we start.
Yeah.
And then we can take it from there.
Yeah.
So we can look into some options. I think a big question with all of the things we have on our plate is timeline and comparison to other. That's a question for. on-
Well, personally, it's been on my agenda for years.
I think it's an
Yeah.
important one.
And it's been raised by actually people that oppose the development tonight, is about these buildings becoming rentals. So,
Yeah, I think we should probably put it as a higher priority. Where exactly that fits in.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of
Yeah.
figure out how that
Maybe-
fits. And I just wanted to understand if that goes before some of our other code amendments, or kind of how, or if we
Yeah, 'cause-
look at it.
Sorry, just right now we have the front yard that we just talked about and we have a timeline for that. And then we have the buffer discussion that we had. And then we had the,
Residential setbacks, or residential design standards.
Okay, yeah, then we had last month, so we're trying to get all those drafted and scheduled. So are we moving this?
How about
What are we
this,
bumping?
Jessica, you and I, next week, we will look at that and make a potential order, and we can bring it to council and see if
Sounds
it's
good.
okay with
That
everyone.
sounds good.
It's before the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that, I just want to make sure to, if we're thinking about our timeline.
Thank you, Natalie, for that clarity.
Is that-
Making sure.
Would there somebody be a resource to that? Does
The league?
the League of
The
Minnesota
league,
Cities,
many
does
cities.
Landform have
And then that's my
something?
question, am I
Does
doing this or
other?
is Matt doing this?
That's
I
what we've
thought it
got to
was-
figure out a little bit.
We'll give him $20, he can do it. I'll give him $20 out of my own pocket.
No,
It'll be a resource, but I'm sure I'm doing it.
I don't think you can bribe us.
I'm not bribing, I'm
We
just,
certainly can reach out to the league. and
Donating.
I can reach out to other mayors,
Donating
see
to
if they have anything on the books.
Soon to be retired chief.
yeah,
In.
I'll take all that back, Matt. Strike it all from the record.
Wife gets a lot of
I was
donations.
gonna say, in my experience, most of the time, rental ordinances are housed with the fire
Community
department.
development.
Well, or either community development or with the fire marshal. So it depends on the city.
I think we should share the love to public safety a little bit.
No.
We have no shortage of things going on.
Our fire marshal is actually within our building, it's related to our building department.
Oh, okay.
Kind of comes back to me, so.
No, so then I'm doing it again.
Kevin's Corner, here we
A
go.
couple of things that we would definitely want to, if the idea is to limit rental for a period of, so we can kind of look at, if the first question, if it's really about limiting it for right now while we study it, how do we do that? We can
Look at what you did.
I know.
Good conversation. Good stuff we're gonna
Good
have to tackle
idea.
at some point. Okay, so do we have everything for now, and then you and I can discuss
I think we've got some feedback.
details next
Okay.
week? Perfect. 10B, I'll just go ahead and call, does these dates work for everyone, first off? The 14th
The 23rd, I might not be able to be here.
23rd of what?
of June?
And July 14th. the
We
next
have at
meeting
least 3 that can make it?
At 5:30.
Yeah, I probably definitely will be here the 23rd of June.
Probably, definitely.
For
Well,
both meetings? or
actually, I
just
don't
the-
know about that.
And it's,
Depends on when my day goes.
fair enough. And it's not a big deal if we, I mean, as long as we
Yeah.
have quorum.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Sorry, did you have July 14th? Was that one of them?
Yes.
I will be out of town on the 14th.
So June 23rd,
But
July 14th.
I have that already as a, July 14th?
And we had discussed about the recruitment and retention ideas, specifically, Matt had out.
I think Matt mentioned that in an
options,
email.
With police officers, but then we would want to also look, how does that impact the city as a whole? So,
Jessica, may I just float an idea? If the second meeting in July was worked for everyone, just the main goal of that water supply was to really hone in the architectural component before they advanced. So just knowing that has come up as a priority for the council, is that something that maybe the 28th works better?
Wait, July 27th?
July 28th, I think, would be the next meeting. Instead of the
That works for
14th,
me.
move it till the 28th, because Councilmember Nichols said he wouldn't be there.
I think we all would.
I won't be here on the 28th.
You won't be at the 28th, okay. So that's, I guess it's up to your purview, or we look at the first meeting in August, not,
Wait, do we have to, so we have a hour dedicated to how this structure looks?
we thought maybe that was important, but.
I don't
it's
care
not
at all,
important
so
to
can
you.
I skip it?
What design?
As long as we have a quorum, sure.
If you get, I mean, we just felt like that was the next big piece. So process has really been designed. That was the first pre-design, right? Process kind of drives certain things. Now we know what that means for structural. Now we know what generally, we have some flavor of timeless, rural character. They have some ideas. You'll probably see it at the next meeting with their proposal. But really the next big piece to finalize is the architectural component. So we want to get going on that to kind of keep the timeline moving.
Is it fair to say, like, none of my ideas are gonna be good ones for the water tower?
I don't think.
It'll be normal stuff, and
Ideas are good.
The quality of your ideas is
Anything
highly
visual,
dependent on you.
Well, you could always talk to Jessica separately. and-
visual or architectural, you don't want me involved.
Why?
How many times have I said that? Because I have Everything I do is square.
I mean, it's a work session, so we could certainly
incorporate it into a meeting if you'd prefer.
do something different. It is, just from in terms of direction, it is a critical information for us to kind of continue to refine and make sure we don't get too far down one direction and you guys kind of say that this isn't what our expectation was, and then
That's the 28th of July.
well, we're proposing the 14th. And then I spoke up saying.
When does the moratorium go away?
So the moratorium expires on the 11th, so this is strictly related to the water tower and water
Well,
treatment.
it's mostly the
The
water
11th of
treatment
June.
building. Yeah, it's focused on the water treatment building.
Like in a few days.
And we're doing fine, everything is in process. Are we gonna see a rash of applicants and
I would
Likely.
anticipate
here we
so.
go? Okay,
I would anticipate, so this is really just to keep the water supply moving.
got it.
So if the quicker we can do it,
If you guys are comfortable meeting offline, providing comments offline, that's okay. We just schedule it for the 14th or the
All right, that-
28th.
I'll come.
If it's a super big priority, we can flex it a little bit. We're trying to keep that schedule going because again, it's 2 years before we'd actually have a functional facility, so.
I'd say let's leave it, and if there's other comments too, to reach out to staff and we can
Share them and.
combine that.
that sounds
So
great.
keep it on the 14th? Okay.
That work? So we'll at least have 3 at each of these meetings?
Yeah, and I may be at the one on the 20.
I think I can make all three.
Okay.
See what time my day gets done.
We
Gotcha.
don't currently have one for the 28th of July, but, we
We're
could,
ways
if we
out.
wanted to have our budget discussion in a work session, we could. I don't have it on here.
Yeah,
but
TBD.
Those are future discussions. if you
Sounds good.
wanna-
And I'll go ahead and call a work session for 5:30 PM on June 23rd, 2022, and 5:30 PM on July 14th, 2022.
Second. Or first, I'll motion.
I don't think we even need a motion.
Yeah,
Need to call it.
Shut up, Dean. Sit up.
All right, 10C, which was added to the
We have
agenda.
three, right?
We only called
2.
We only called 2. We
The next
have.
2 meetings.
We had just talked about an additional
Not
option
the
on the
July
20.
one.
July, oh, I'm just gonna leave it on my schedule. Whatever.
King, Mayor, and Council, the last item we have on our agenda today is authorizing the execution of a termination of lease agreements document for the city. It's related to the St. Therese project. We talked a bit about this at the Economic Development Authority meeting this evening at 6 PM. It really.
Can I make a motion?
Yep, go for it.
That, we execute cancellation of the lease as defined by the EDA.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect, thank you.
And that, I believe, is all we have.
I've got one question,
Go
if
for
I
it.
may. The open position on planning, do we need to start doing anything for that?
So,
If I'm out of line, tell me, but
no, that's a great question.
put that out on the,
So that will be something that we can work on, staff, right now because.
Start
the
asking for
position-
applications
Yeah,
and
we can
stuff.
start asking for applications. The resignation isn't effective
Right,
until
till-
after the July meeting.
okay.
And at this point, we may not have a July meeting.
That's why I was
But either way, I
asking
would say
that.
it's
Holy
effective.
We'll go ahead and start advertising.
I said, holy mackerel.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's the first time.
I think it's more a exception than the rule, but
And then, is there something we can do? Chair Jacobs has been part of this community,
So-
part of the plan.
Definitely a resolution.
Long
We
time.
definitely will certainly do a resolution. We'd have to, so we do have a recognition policy, so we'll look at that, and if we want to make sure to follow that, but no, at the very least, we do a recognition with a resolution that we can frame.
perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? We have a second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So did they win?
No.
They lost? Yeah.